welcome to Overtime Hockey Talk. My name is Mark Paul. My co-host Justin Baker and I are here to preview the final series of the NHL playoffs, the Winnipeg Jets against the Calgary Flames. And to do that with us, we have Randy Workman. He is a blogger of all things NHL and has been focusing on the Flames and the Leafs as well. And so we brought him in to chat about this series as we preview it for you. So, Randy, welcome to the show. We're happy that you hopped on with us to share all your Flames knowledge, and we'll jump right in as we have on all our other previews, where we're gonna hit offense, defense, goaltending, and special teams, and just break down these teams. Any unique stats that we have, we'll just kind of throw out along the way. And with that said, Randy, I'll give you the first word on this series. What are your thoughts going into whenever the playoffs start, going into the playoffs?
My first thoughts is I think the Jets will win it. And the main reason why I do, guys, is because they're too big, too fast, and they have a goaltender that's probably, in my honest opinion, is in the top 4 in the league.
Well, I won't disagree with you there. I mean, you've heard me toot his horn many times. Connor Hellebuyck is my jam. And
and there's a good reason for that. There really is. And Calgary, all they got is a very, very inconsistent Reddick and a more consistent Talbot. But for some reason, I don't know why, Talbot doesn't get enough action. Reddick does. I guess we want to make it more exciting for the other team.
Yeah, I'd say definitely goaltending wise. All right, well, that's a great place to start since we're there. Goaltending wise, obviously, this is one where one team has a significant advantage. I know absolutely. Justin has been a Hellebuyck guy before Hellebuyck was even born, I think. So, Justin, when you think about like a Dave Rittich, he's fine. You know, a decent goaltender. Actually, yeah. Talbot has had better in-game stats. Not that
yes, he does.
Isn't always indicative of how a guy actually will play, but he's looked okay this regular season in a backup role, which is probably where Talbot should be. He's had his best seasons as a backup.
Yes, he has. Yeah.
But I don't think we're not going away from Rittich and Hellebuyck. I think that's where we're going to at least start.
That's where we're going.
That's where we're going to start.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Calgary Flames, right, the big thing to keep in mind is the future of this franchise. And I think Calgary would like to see Rittich take the helm and be the guy moving forward. Especially, I mean, you consider Talbot, he's a UFA after the season.
Yes, he is. We got a lot of decisions about him.
Yeah, a lot of decisions to make about whether or not you re-sign a guy like that who, again, as a backup has been very, very serviceable and is, had opportunities to be a starter in Edmonton. So, there's that security. If maybe Rittich doesn't work out, you can go to this guy. Yeah. However, focusing in on the playoffs, I think when you look at a guy like Dave Rittich, again, last year didn't get the starts. It was all Mike Smith, and who did a fantastic job, I think, for the Calgary Flames. But
he's money.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see if he gets the job here in Edmonton. But back to Rittich, I think the bigger concern is, do you kind of slight this guy again and say, you're not going to be the guy who we're starting with. We're going to go with Cam Talbot because he's had the better numbers during the regular season. Or do you go with Rittich because he's going to be your guy after the season to take the bulk of those starts, and you don't really want to, goaltenders are a finicky player, and, mentally there's a lot that goes into it. And,
you're absolutely right. That's your main concern. Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. And I completely agree. I think, for me, it's David Rittich for the Calgary Flames, just because, again, he's the guy after the season. You know who's going to be there. Talbot's, again, a UFA. We don't know if he's going to resign, if he's going to look elsewhere, maybe to a team like Detroit who needs a starter. He gets more of an opportunity to place like that. But, again, I think Rittich's the way to go here in Calgary, and obviously we know where we're going in Winnipeg with goaltending.
Well, yeah, and the thing I like about Hellebuyck, I don't know a more goalie that plays his angles than him. He knows where he's so reactionary. You know what I mean? The puck's in the corner. Yeah. He thinks two spots ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, he really makes it easy on himself.
Exactly.
That's probably the reason why he isn't touted as a better goaltender, because, I mean, statistically speaking, he's phenomenal, but he's just in the right place at the right time. He's very similar to Carey Price, where like Carey Price, he's not making like highlight saves very often, but he's just always in the right place at the right time, and that's Connor Hellebuck. He's a big body, and he knows. You're right. He probably is the best. If we're Carey Price, Connor Hellebuck, that's a good name to be in when it comes to guys that shut off the angle. So yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to goaltending, there couldn't be a bigger gap in what we're looking at, and it definitely is huge Jets' advantage on the goaltending side of it. How much of an advantage that actually will play out in a 5-game series with these teams rusty and coming in, after such a long layoff. We did see in the beginning of the regular season, Connor Hellebuck has struggled in the past, and so that that's always there.
Human. Yeah, that's always there. And Calgary has certain players who can get into goalies' minds. We know who all I'm talking about.
Yeah, Matthew Tkachuk is...
That's not too hard to figure that one out, is it?
Right.
Yeah, I will say, though, back to the goaltending, I think, outside of Carey Price, I think Connor Hellebuck is the one guy I look at who could potentially steal a 5-game series very easily for a team for a team that, again, doesn't have the most solid defense, and they're going to try to, play physical, play everything up front in terms of, trying to get their snipers activated. So, they're going to rely a little heavily on Connor Hellebuck to maybe steal a game or two here.
You see, the key point here, and I don't mean to be rude to Riddick, but if these two teams play like they're capable of getting wild hockey, and they do, Calgary has Riddick and Winnipeg has Hellebuck. Who do you think is going to score more goals?
That's a great point. Yep, that's a great point. For a team that through 71 regular season games has 2 70-point guys, 2 60-point guys, and almost another guy with 58 points in Ehlers. I mean, you've got 5 players that can really put the puck in the net and do some damage on the offensive side of the game. Whereas Calgary, of course, is they're a little bit different. They really have their one line, and outside of that, there's not a whole lot that you're really afraid of. So you're kind of looking for offense from the whole entire crew. And
exactly,
I don't see this series is, for being an 8-9. It's supposed to be like, wow, these two teams are so even, and
I don't think they are.
And really, I mean, the Jets are so underrated in terms of where they stacked up because of the injuries they had on defense early on.
And let's face facts, they're in a lot harder division. They have to face St. Louis, they have to face Dallas, they have to face Colorado.
That's a good point too. In a totally different division, these two teams did face off against each other once in the regular season, and I believe it was Winnipeg
Jets in a shootout
in overtime.
Is it overtime?
Brian Little won the game in overtime, and that's really the last thing Brian Little did, because he only played 7 games all year, and that's another huge addition that the Jets are going to get back. Likely,
absolutely.
They still, the last thing I could find about Brian Little was about 3 weeks ago, and they said that he was, the typical, he's on the road to recovery, he might play. To me, that says he'll play. Why wouldn't you try and get him into the lineup if you can? And that really gives you a top 6 forward who probably isn't going to play in their top 6. So it just gives them all the more depth. A guy who, he's a 60 point guy when he's healthy.
Yes, he is.
And what an addition that can be, plus all the defensemen that you're getting back outside of Big Buff, not getting him back.
Yeah, not returning, and that's a good spot to transition to when we talk about defense, right? We know the losses that Winnipeg has had, on the back end. Obviously, Jacob Trouba going to the Rangers. Big Buff's been out for the whole season, holding out. Obviously, they've terminated their relationship at this point, and so I have to say, from the beginning of the season till now, obviously, I've seen this defense on the Jets improve a lot more than I actually thought they probably would have throughout the course of the season. However, on Calgary, and this is where I want to get your opinion, because this is a defense where, if they're all playing at their peak, this can be a very, very dangerous defense. I mean, you've got a lot of
nasty defense.
Yeah, you've got a lot of big names up there, and so I'm curious, especially when you have a few guys that are coming up on UFA status, how they're going to pan out, how they're going to play, and maybe try to play for some contracts.
Well, and there's a point. This defense has been a huge disappointment this season. But the only bright side we have on defense is Vilimaki's coming back. He'll be ready.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about. I actually really have not watched him play. I know he's. This is like his rookie season, right?
This will be his second season.
Second year.
Yeah.
I haven't really gotten a chance to watch him much. What makes him so dangerous?
It makes him dangerous because he's all around defenseman, and he's probably our nastiest hitter. And what makes him dangerous is he knows how to hit clean.
That's always helpful.
If there's a player coming up and he doesn't have his head up, Vilimaki will send him back to the.
Has he been injured all year?
Yes.
Ah, okay. That's
freak accident in the off season.
Beautiful. Freak accident.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there was no alcohol involved at all.
Oh, no, I hope not. But with young kids, he's 19. 19, 21. I think he was 21. He was. I can't even remember what the accident was. I think it was off. What they call what do they call it when you're not playing off?
Oh, just like an off-season injury, then.
Off-season, off injury. Training, off training. He was training, okay. I think.
Gotcha.
Something like that.
So yeah, I mean that's always, anytime you get a guy who can slot into your top six on defense, especially if that means that you don't have to play Michael Stone on your defense. That's always a plus.
Oh yes, don't remind me of Michael Stone. But Giordano and Hamonic and Brody, we all know about them. But we also know that Hammer hasn't been very good. Giordano, I'll be honest, he hasn't been like the Mark Giordano he was last year.
Yeah, 76 points in the Norris Trophy.
Yeah, no 76 point this year.
No, yeah, 31 points. He had 5 goals. Definitely not looking like the same offensive player that he was last year, especially on the power play. Only with 9 power play points.
Well, our power play is awful, but we'll talk about that next. But the key point is that defense, they have a lot to prove, and if it's going to even be a remote series, they're going to have to play to what they can, and if they do, they can hold Calgary in.
All right,
if they don't, there's a problem.
Yeah. It can be a real quick 3-game series if you're not careful.
Well, I'm predicting 4.
4 games.
4-game Jets. I'll say that right now. But if that defense doesn't do what it's told, and there's something that the main problem was, and it's the big bird in the closet, whatever you want to call it, and that's the Peters situation. When he started off as a head coach, the team never recovered.
Yeah, after he left, and
the way he left, and now I don't know if there was anything that went on here in Calgary. I was never told that, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think too. Now that we've had such a break, I think that's probably a really good thing for the Flames. Is that
that's the one good thing?
You're separating yourself from all that's happened. You get, everyone in these playoffs, you get a giant reset button. And I think that especially for the guys who have struggled, like Giordano, like TJ Brody and Hamonic. I mean, defensively speaking, this team is just not, the Flames have not gotten a lot of offense from their back end.
Well, no, and that's the main problem. And the other problem is that they made, during the game, they would make at least 1 or 2 mistakes.
And those mistakes can be very costly.
When you got a grade B plus goalie.
Yeah, a guy you can't rely on as much. Yeah, and that can be a problem if you don't really trust the guy that's back there to do his job. Then you're playing a different way than, with Winnipeg. They know they can take some chances, and they know who they have back there.
They have back there. They have him.
Calgary's not able to take the same amount of chances. Offensively speaking, for the Flames, I think we all know Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, and then Elias Lindholm and his rise to kind of
fame,
being a significant top line player. We all know those four players on this team. Talk to us about a couple people that you would like if the Flames are going to win this series. Who on the offensive side from their forwards are you seeing that, hey, this guy could be like an X factor. Maybe nobody's looking at them to kind of take this rise, but maybe they've looked good through the regular season and like they just hadn't produced. Anybody on the Flames that you look to like that?
The bread man. I can't pronounce his name. He's known as the bread man. He's number 88. Marjani?
Mangiapane?
Thank you. The kid is outstanding. I mean, and once he got put on that second line, he's really connected well. And there are times he got put on the first line, and Lindholm got put down to the second line.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's that good. And what makes him that good is his speed.
Yeah. So he's also fast. The bread man? Him and Artemi Panarin? He stole his nickname? Is that right?
Yeah, we call him bread. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, hey, what a guy who's coming up, maybe playing in your top six. They took him 166th overall in 2015.
Oh, yes.
And, what a nice little pick there. That maybe makes up for Sam Bennett.
Yeah.
If anything can ever make up for Sam Bennett.
I don't. I love Sam Bennett. Don't get me wrong, but every time I talk about Sam Bennett, my blood boils.
I'd like to hear your blood boil. So talk about Sam Bennett for a minute.
The main problem that I have with Sam Bennett is I love his heart, and he fights like cats and dogs. But he makes these stupid penalties. I mean, somebody will be coming down the ice, and instead of skating with him, he'll trip him.
Yeah, he doesn't really play very much either. So, 12 and a half minutes a game. You've got 36 penalty minutes. I'd say 18 penalties that he took in 52 games, and really he's on the ice for a quarter or a fifth of a game. That's not great. It's not great. It's taking over a penalty every 60 minutes. It's
you just described that. And now your answer, like you want somebody who really is really underrated. His name is Derek Ryan. I don't know if you guys know very much about him. Probably the best fourth line center in the game. He does everything.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, came from Carolina.
Yeah, he came from Carolina. He's the heart of the team. Him and Tkachuk. And it's kind of funny when I say this because, of course, it's a Canadian city. But our two biggest players with the biggest hearts are both Americans, Tkachuk and Derek Ryan.
There you go.
And the reason why Derek Ryan is what he is because he does everything.
Yeah, he's kind of a late bloomer. He didn't
really
play his rookie season until he was 30 years old.
Yep.
And he played well. He got a free agent contract. Actually, I mean, last year, I know it's not too crazy, but he was 29th in Selke voting. So for a fourth line guy, obviously he's on the penalty kill for the
he's
for
a
the
penalty
Flames.
Kill, and believe it or not, he plays on the power play.
I did not know that he played on the power play.
Yes, he's played on the power play. Yeah.
So in terms of let's shift. Let's go to our special teams here. Both these teams are, I'd say, in terms of at least overall percentage, both teams are okay. The Calgary Flames have the 12th best power play at 21%, and the Jets at 20.5% rank 15th. So both really tight on the power play.
Yep.
On the PK, that's really where they get separated. The Flames at 82%. Coming in with the 8th ranked penalty kill, and the Jets, which obviously speaks to Derek Ryan as the center who's centering that top PK line. The Jets, not so much, 77% on the power play. They're 22nd in the league, and there's only a few teams in the playoffs that had a worse penalty kill than the Jets. Talk to us about the Flames power play. You did mention earlier that the Flames had a bad power play, even though they are ranked 12th in the league, so they can't be that bad.
well, the second half of the year they really improved, but the beginning they were they were disorganized. They didn't really know what they wanted to do, and the moment that they put Tkachuk and Goodrow on there, it clicked. And Tkachuk is he's the best player when it comes into the garbage. He's just, I don't know how he does it. He gets the puck, and there was a goal on the power play that he scored against the Preds where he put it between his legs and in the top corner of the net.
Well, I will say, I mean, listen, some guys can make their life in front of the net, and guys that have good hands and are willing to take, that cross check in the back, take a little of a beating. And a guy like Matthew Tkachuk is one of those guys who really doesn't mind, taking an extra hit or another little poke in the back to make his living in front of the net. And he's done a very good job of it. And obviously it shows when you talk about the power play that the Calgary Flames have. And so, my other concern, is obviously we know what's on that first unit. When you got guys like Tkachuk, Gaudreau, Monahan, to me it's going to come down to, that 30, 45 seconds that maybe the second unit will get.
And that's where Michael Backlund comes in. And he's a second line center that really shouldn't be. He's a fantastic third line center. He was considered up for the Selke, and that's where he's going to have to learn to step up. If he can step up and be that player that he's capable of, like he's capable of scoring 50 or 60 points if he plays his game.
Yeah, I mean, he's career highs, 53 points, and you're right. I mean, he was 4th in Selke voting a few years ago, 13th 2 years ago, and 8th last year. So I mean, you want to talk about, I mean, if you've got, that's Derek Ryan and Michael Backlund, both as your defensive centers. I mean, you're doing pretty good. I mean, maybe the Flames do have the two of the best in terms of a two-headed monster, defensively speaking.
They do, and they have the capabilities of that. The problem is they just, what's the word I'm looking for? My problem is when I was born deaf, so I have a hard time connecting the right words to say.
No worries.
But the thing is with them, they just need to get their heads in the game. They need to want to do it.
Yeah, and I think maybe they're too. Obviously, we know the center depth that Calgary has, and obviously, I would probably take that over, what Winnipeg has in terms of center depth. But I think where the difference is, and maybe this is where guys like Backlund and Derek Ryan could use a little bit of help. It's on the wings, right? Obviously,
we don't.
Yeah, I mean, right now you've got Milan Lucic playing third line left wing with Derek Ryan.
Exactly.
And how much production are you really going to get out of a guy like that when you can look on the flip side and go to Winnipeg? And you've got, Nick Ehlers playing, wing on the second line, and a little bit of, Matthew Perreault's playing wing on the third line for Winnipeg. So you've got, a lot more depth there, to play with versus, a team like Calgary that, outside of that top line is strapped for talent.
Is that we don't have a Connor, we don't have a Liney.
Right. Well,
we don't have a Scheissele on the center.
Well, yeah, I'm sure every team would love to have a line for sure.
Well, exactly. But there's one guy in the Jets that you guys haven't mentioned enough, and that was the guy that was injured. You know who the real heart is Little.
Yep. Brian
Little he's their heart. He really is. He does everything. He doesn't back down from anything.
Well, and he can play up and down in the lineup.
Yeah, exactly right. He can play anywhere. You put him anywhere in the lineup.
Another guy too for the Jets who he only played 8 games for the Jets this year because he was sent over in a deal, and that's Cody Eakin. Cody Eakin is a real nice third line center, and he that's probably where he ultimately slots for the Jets.
And it cost him a 4th round pick.
Yeah, and I mean he's done okay in the playoffs. I mean a few years ago for Dallas, he had 8 points in 13 games. Like he can be relied upon to at least be defensive. He can take faceoffs. He's got in the playoffs. He's got a 52% faceoff win in the playoffs. So he's somebody you can put in there and come in, win a draw, and send him out. I I mean, he doesn't need a whole lot of time on ice to do what he can do, and that's be a good defensive center. So I mean, I think we're starting to see a trend here that both these teams have quite a bit of defensive forwards. I mean, even we were just talking about Brian Little. He's another guy who you can definitely rely upon defensively. Both these teams are loaded with guys who are responsible on both ends of the ice.
The key point in that part is what you would bring up, Paul, is you go ahead and look at my center's stats. There's one guy over 50%, I do believe, and that's Derek Ryan. We're very weak when it comes to face-offs.
Yeah, well, Sean Monahan is 52.6. He actually leads the team, but
what is he?
Yeah,
wow.
And
I got that stat wrong.
Sam Bennett at 51.7. That's okay. He did take by far the most face-offs too. But yeah, I mean, to have two guys over 52%, to the two guys who are taking the vast majority of the face-offs, Lindholm and Backlund. Backlund definitely struggles in the face-off circle, and then Janikowski only at 44.8% on over 400 tries. So that's not so great, but yeah, I mean, I guess between Monahan and Ryan, you're probably in the playoffs. You're going to have those guys take the vast majority of your draws and kind of set yourself up that way, because you can't afford to lose even a draw in the 5-game series.
Absolutely not. You're absolutely, and like I said, our strength is our centers, but I still like Winnipeg's forwards by far over us. It's just. I feel bad because I'm supposed to be a homer, but
you're the Flames guy who is down on the Flames, I guess.
Well, not completely. Just not down on them. They're just Winnipeg. Just is a better team.
Yeah, I just think Winnipeg is underrated. They probably should have been in a position where there were at least a 6 or a 5 seed here, but because of the brutal start they had, by no fault of their own, they just had so many injuries. They lose their star defenseman because he wants to go fishing instead of playing hockey. Like, what are you going to do when you run into that? It's just there's nothing that you can do to make that better. And now they find themselves at least fully healthy, still without their best defense. I mean, Bufflin isn't coming back. I guess so. Josh Morrissey is your guy in the game.
I love Morrissey though.
In the game, it was early in the season. Granted, it's like October 26th is when the Jets and the Flames played. But Josh Morrissey played 29 minutes in that game. Mark Scheifele played over 24 minutes. Like, these guys are going to be leaned upon in this 5-game series. I think that across the board for most teams, you're going to see the top 6, especially the best centers on each team. You're going to see these guys get 22, 23 minutes a night because you have nothing to lose. Like, you can't lose even, if you get down 2 games, it's going to be real hard to win 3 in a row right now with the inconsistencies of coming back after being on such a long layoff.
That's exactly right. But I liked what Justin was saying at the beginning of the show about when the Jets did the goaltending. I love the goaltending, and I love what he said about the defense. Yeah, there's just too much Jets and not enough Flames.
Yeah, and maybe that kind of goes back to Mark's point, is like the Jets maybe should be a 5 or 6 seed here, and
they should be.
Yeah, and had Paul Maurice had his full defense, or maybe had more time to deal with the loss of a guy like Bufflin to really kind of prepare this team and get this defense going for. I mean, Calgary, most of their D, they've been playing together for a couple of years, if not more. Whereas most of these guys on the Jets blue line, outside of Kulikov and Morrissey, haven't been there for very long. So you're kind of starting a little bit more fresh. You're trying to get these guys to gel together, and when you only can pair 2 guys together on the back end and try to find combinations that work with a lot of inexperience, it maybe takes a little bit more time. And so, had they, had a start where, their defense was working and clicking as it was towards the end of the year, we'd definitely be talking about the Jets, maybe even a possible top 3. Maybe Dallas gets kicked out of that 4th spot there. So,
well, I think they're a better team than Dallas, but that's just an opinion.
Yeah. And Dallas, the thing about Dallas, they definitely play a much different style than I think what Winnipeg would want to play. Winnipeg played a weird style early on. One thing I'm looking at right now between the Flames and the Jets, The Jets have the 5th highest shots against, and the Flames the 9th highest. To me, that says there could be a lot of shots in this series.
There will be a lot of shots.
Both these teams are teams that, and they were 12th and 14th in shots for. So, I mean, we're going to see a lot of shots, I think, on net in these games, and it's probably ultimately it's going to come down to goaltending, and David Rittich is going to have the series of his life, which, in fairness, anyone can. I mean, in a 5-game series, all it takes is 3 or 4 really good games, and your team wins, and off you go. As much as we have maybe ragged on Calgary a bit, they have the ability to win this series.
I think they do.
Yeah, I think just more has to go their way, and they have to. I mean, there has to be some guys who step up and play better than how they played in the regular season. In particular, Giordano is going to need to produce. You're going to need to see more out of everyone in the bottom half of the lineup who hadn't been able to score very often. So I think that's, and in a shortened series, you can get random production from players that had nothing the entire regular season, and you can go in. All it takes, I mean, think about the gravity of one goal in a 5-game series. You're probably talking, if the series goes all 5 games, you're talking your team's probably scoring around 15 goals in a 5-game series. If that's 3 goals a game. That's like probably even above average. So if you score 15 goals, I mean, think how big each goal is. There's not going to be many opportunities, and so there really is an air of just a total unknown. We haven't seen a 5-game series since. I never watched a 5-game series. Randy, did you ever watch a 5-game series?
Yes,
in the NHL.
Yeah, I did. Believe it or not, I'm old enough to believe it or not. Yes, I'm probably older than all 3 of you combined. So yes,
the 2 of us combined. Yes. I don't know. I don't think that you are. You're what? How old? You're 36, 35, and I'm 34. So,
you guys.
That's 69.
I'm 58. So
all right. So you're not quite double.
The only way the Calgary is going to win this series is if Riddick turns into Gumby.
Well, I will say, I mean, it is more than possible that any goaltender can go. Like we talked about, in a 5-game series, it's easy for a goaltender to go on a hot streak. We've seen it many times in the NHL. 3-4 games, they can get hot. 7 games, a little harder, obviously. But
remember, Brian Boucher has the record for most consecutive shutouts.
There you go.
Anytime you want a goalie with a hot streak, Brian Boucher. 5 consecutive, I think it was, shutouts.
Guys, and who knows better than what a hot goalie can do than me? Think about the 2004 playoffs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Kipper.
His name is Mika Kiprusoff.
All season long.
Well, and he in Game 6 when we played Detroit, he went that long without giving up a goal, and he was like almost near 100 minutes in the whole series without allowing a goal. The guy he had a 1.69 goals against average most of the year. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah. I know what a hot goalie can do.
So you're saying David Rittich needs to channel his inner Kiprusoff for them to win this series.
He really does, and that's the only way. Like I said, I love the Flames, and they're capable of having a good team. They just haven't shown me that they're capable. They just haven't shown me any consistency at all.
All right, so I know you said your prediction earlier. You're sticking with your Flames or your Jets in 4?
Yeah, I am. I really am. I hate to say that. I would love to pick the Flames. I'd love to see them win, but I just don't see it happen.
So you're cheering for them, but professionally speaking, you're picking them to lose.
That's right. Yeah.
Justin, what's your prediction on this series?
I'm calling Jets, but I'm calling the sweep.
Calling a sweep.
I'm calling a sweep. Yeah.
Wow. I'm going the other way. I think as much talent as the Jets have up front, as good as Connor Hellebuck is, I think some of that is thrown out the window in a 5-game series. And I do think the Flames have quite a few players playing for contracts. I think they can throw around their weight a little bit with the Jets. As much size as the Jets may have, I think we're also forgetting that Dustin Byfuglien is no longer there, so that's not a threat. Right. You don't have to look over your shoulder for him coming across the ice. And I really think that there's something, I don't know, maybe there's a Lucic effect. We'll see. I mean, come the playoffs, it's been a minute since he's had the opportunity to be in the playoffs and have an impact. So I'm going to pick the Flames in 5. I think this is going to be a very tight series. I think it's going to be all over the place. We're going to see maybe a shutout, but we're also going to see a game where there's just scoring galore, a 6-5 type of game. So I think this series is going to be really fun because both these teams have a little bit of they can go on these crazy hot streaks and losing streaks. So I think we might see all that play out in one series. So I'm going Flames in 5.
Wow. All right.
Well, I like your pick. I hope you're right, Paul.
There you go. Yeah. I guess I figured you'd like that one, but
I did.
Yeah. Well, hey, Randy, thank you for being on the show. What things are you working on? Where can people find your the stuff that you write?
It's a tongue twister. It's Flames. I even have to look it up. But I'm mostly I'm connecting on to a website called Drive for 5 on Facebook, and they're in New York.
Cool.
And I'm gonna be blogging for them, I think, more often, and I'm gonna be doing an NHL blog. I'm coming up with a draft blog, believe it or not, is what I'm working on right now.
Perfect.
And the reason why I'm doing it is because I got told we didn't know when the draft was, so I thought I'd better do it right away. How well did that work out? Right?
Yeah. This draft will be an interesting one since nobody got to see any playoffs, no Memorial Cup. Some of the tournaments were out, so it'll be an interesting one for you.
So the blog is called FlamesterBlogspot.com, I do believe.
All right. And people can find you on Twitter at the Fan Blogger.
Fan Blogger. And if you guys ever need more guests, I would love to. I had a blast. You're very, very easygoing, and you made me feel more than welcome. So anytime you need a guest, I would love to come on and give you guys as much support as I can.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it, and enjoy the hockeyless summer, but we're almost there. We're almost to training camp.
So weird.
It'll be
weird.
It'll be at least, no matter how young or old you are, you've never seen anything like this, and you probably will never see anything like this again. Hopefully, I hope to God that we never see anything like this again. So
I pray to you, and I'm wondering how many when you play this podcast, I'm wondering how many followers of Flame fans I'll lose.
Oh dear. Well, hopefully you gain some Flames fans, and
hopefully I'll gain some Jet fans.
There you go. Yeah, I'm sure they'll appreciate your prediction. Well, thanks again for being on the show. And
thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Bye, Randy.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Yep. Bye.
Well, that is Overtime Hockey Talk. We hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed Randy, and we will talk to you guys very soon. Look for us on Twitter at OT Hockey Talk. And Justin, any final thoughts as we ride off into the sunset?
Well, now that we're riding off into the sunset and done with these playoff predictions here, I can't wait to maybe dive a little bit into the top 4 teams in each conference and really see how it kind of, I guess, ends up, right, with all these preliminary rounds. And
yeah, it'll be weird to see those teams all play each other.
And
like,
they're going to
play like a little round robin between the three of them. Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, they're basically the top 4. Yeah, they're just going to have some play-in games and just to get their feet going. So that'll be fun to see.
Well, that determines the seeding.
Yes, absolutely. So like Boston, the team who finished with the President's Trophy, might not even finish number 1.
Could be a 4th seed.
Right. And maybe a team like, and it's going to be interesting too, because a team like St. Louis, for example, obviously they know what they are. They don't really have to go in and, play all their top guys, 20 minutes a game. They can maybe give these guys, ease them back in a little bit more than some of these other teams. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, who cares? I guess who cares what seed you end up with? Because, I would say in the West, you don't really want, they're going to reseed everybody.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really, it's just going to be a crapshoot. because I'm thinking like, well, the 4 would probably play the 8-9. That's how a bracket would normally.
Ideally,
if they didn't reseed people. But shoot, like let's say the Jets win and they're ranked 8, and the Jets 8 or the Flames 8.
Flames are 8.
Flames are 8. Yeah. So the Jets. Let's say the Jets win, they're 9, but one of the lower seeds wins. I mean, that's who that 4th team is playing. So you never know where you'll fall. So it's almost, the games only matter as much as the conditioning of your players. So I would think that it'll probably be, I don't know, I guess it'll be like regular season, but not diehard regular season. It'll just be like early regular season. We're all getting our feet back. Let's not try to destroy each other.
Yeah, not post deadline.
Yeah, nobody's angry at each other right now. I think we've all let everything go. I hope.
There you go.
Marchand hasn't, but... All right, well, that's our show. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you guys